The meeting is open. We currently have no attendees logged in and we are recording.
Okay, thanks, Julia. Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order at 10:04 a.m. And firstly, I'd like to just acknowledge that we are conducting this meeting on the traditional territories of the Tishat First Nation and the Huipachesset First Nation. Please be advised that the meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to our regional district website after the meeting. So first item of order is to select a chairperson and vice chairperson for this committee. And I will call on Wendy Thompson to run the election.
Thank you. So this is for 2020, and I know it's kind of late in the year, but this committee hasn't met for a while, so we'll be going through this process again early in the new year. With COVID and us participating by Zoom, if there is an election, I'll have to get everyone just to email me their selection, and then I will announce the results, and of course I'll keep that completely confidential, everyone's vote. So I will call for nominations for chairperson of the ALBERNI Valley Emergency Planning Policy Group for 2020, a first time.
Can I go? Can you hear me now?
Sure.
Okay. I'll nominate John McNabb.
Great. Director McNabb, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So I'll call for nominations for chair of the ALBERNI Valley Emergency Planning Policy Group for 2020 a second time. Okay, and I will call for nominations for chairperson of the ALBERNI Valley ALBERNI Valley Emergency Planning Policy Group a third time. Okay. Therefore, no further nominations. I declare Director John McNabb chair of this committee for 2020.
Thank you. Thank you.
Director McNabb, did you want me to conduct vice chair as well?
Sure. You're
Okay.
good at it.
It's such a mouthful, this committee. Great. So I'll call for nominations for vice chair of the ALBERNI Valley Emergency Planning Policy Group for 2020 a first time.
I'll nominate Penny Cote.
Thank you. Director Cote, do you accept that nomination?
Okay.
Great, thank you. And call for nominations for vice chair of the ALBERNI Valley Emergency Planning Policy Group 2020 for a second time. And calling for nominations for vice chair a third time. Okay, there being no further nominations, I declare Director Cote the vice chair of this committee for 2020. And I'll turn it over to the chair. Thank you.
Okay, can we get the agenda split on the screen? Is that possible? Because my agenda is in my iPad. It doesn't work so well.
I can do that. Just give me a second.
Can I make a suggestion
Sure.
for the future? Can we have agendas either printed off beforehand, just the agenda, not the whole minutes and everything, but just so that it makes it a lot easier if people need to pick them up at the regional office. If they don't have a printer, I think it makes things a lot easier. Thanks.
Okay, so now we're looking for an approval of the agenda, now that we've got it on our screen, sort of. So motion to approve the agenda. There we go.
Second.
Okay, any changes to the agenda? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Say, I'm opposed. I don't hear anybody, so we're approve the agenda. So first of all, we get a report from Heather Zinner. So let's go through that and see what that's about.
Thanks, John. I'm just going to share a presentation. Can you see that on your screen?
Yes, it's
Okay.
there.
Okay.
On my screen, anyhow.
Okay, great. Okay, so I thought it would just be good to update this policy group on activities that we've been doing in the ALBERNI Valley Emergency Program. So today I'm going to update you on, we're going to go over the terms of reference just because this group hasn't met since 2018. I thought there might be some new members to this group, so going over the terms of reference would probably be helpful. I'll do a bit of a COVID-19 update. I'm going to show you the new ALBERNI Valley Emergency Program logo. I'm going to give an update on the liaison group and the leadership group. We've recently met. I'm excited to tell you about Voyant Alert if you haven't already heard about it. It's our new emergency notification system. And we've had some discussions on a couple of military exercises in Port Alberni, so I'll share some information on that. And then I'll also talk about an emergency supplies inventory that we're doing, as well as give you an update on all of our grants. So the terms of reference for this group, I'll just highlight some of the things. This policy group makes recommendations to the ACRD Board of Directors. So if there's any recommendations that comes out of today's meeting, I can take that to the board meeting on the 14th. And this group is to help the board make decisions. The membership of this group is the 4 rural directors for the Alberni Valley, as well as all of City Council and Mayor. And then we have 3 non-voting members, including Tashat, Hupachasset, and the Bamfield director. This group meets twice a year, unless otherwise called another meeting at the call of the chairperson. And then the chairperson will also report any updates to the board at the next meeting. So for the COVID-19 update, on your screen, this is an update that is done by Island Health very frequently. If you're interested, it's on their website. It gives an update on COVID cases, and it breaks it down by 3 areas on the island. So we're in Central Island, and this is yesterday's number. So as of yesterday at 4:30, there were 5 active cases in Central Island, which includes all of the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District, includes Parksville, Qualicum, Nanaimo, Duncan, and Lake Cowichan. Provincially, there are 1,353 active COVID cases, with 66 people being in hospital and 16 in critical care or in ICU. There are an additional 3,010 people who are under active public health monitoring, so that means they may have been in close contact with a COVID case. And I'm sure you're all aware of there was a confirmed positive COVID case at Alberni District Secondary School. School district was notified on Saturday of the positive case, and then Island Health did their contract tracing over the weekend. And then the entire school population was notified of the positive case around Sunday, around 5:30. I'm just going to stop there and ask if there's any questions. Please just ask questions as I'm going along here. Not seeing any. And then yesterday at Dr. Henry's update, she gave a fall update and included some modeling. So the slide on the screen shows that there are fewer infections for each COVID case, which means that people with COVID are transmitting COVID to fewer people than in the past 3 months. So that's showing that people are keeping their circles of contact smaller. And if they have COVID, it's transmitting to less people. So this is a positive trend overall. Over 80% of the known COVID cases are from a known contact or from a cluster. There are still some international travel related cases. There are a lower number of people in hospital and in critical care than at the beginning of the pandemic, so that's also a positive trend. As of yesterday, there were 64 school exposure events across the province. And Dr. Henry said that most school exposure events are related to exposure events in the community, meaning that the exposure is not being transmitted in school, it's coming from outside of the school. Dr. Henry indicated that on the BC CDC website, there's information providing guidance for upcoming events such as Thanksgiving, Halloween, and Remembrance Day. Dr. Henry said that people should make their celebrations large in gratitude and small in size. Stay close to home and have small gatherings. Okay, and then this is the ALBERNI Valley Emergency Program logo. So this is a combination of the ACRD logo and the city logo. This was combined to show that this service is a shared service for both the city and regional district. City staff and regional district staff had input into the logo. So the logo will be used to brand the program to the community, and will be used in brochures and promotional materials and out in the community when we're meeting with people. I'm also developing a Facebook site specifically for the emergency program, which will allow the EOC to communicate with the community in a timely manner in an emergency, but we'll also use Facebook to for emergency planning for non-emergencies. We're also using Let's Connect, which is letsconnectpa.ca, which is a city platform. We currently have a COVID page on there, but we also have one for emergency planning, so we'll be also able to share information that way with the community. I'm planning a shakeout event for regional district staff internally, and I'm also making plans with the radio station to do something on the radio on October 15th, which is the shakeout event for BC. And as part of the ALBERNI Valley Emergency Program, we have a large liaison group. I won't read out all the names, but you can see there's almost 30 agencies in the community that participate in this liaison group. We met on September 30th for the first time in a couple of years. I think it was well received. I've heard from many people that they appreciate this liaison group as it's a way for people to know what other emergency agencies are doing, but it's also good to meet people ahead of time, ahead of an emergency. So this group also meets twice a year. And then we also have a leadership group, which is an internal staff group. We met on September 15th, and it includes representation from both the city and regional district. And this group meets 4 times a year. And then Voyant Alerts, I think I've spoken to most of you about this program, but it's an emergency notification system that we can use to quickly communicate with the community in the event of an emergency. So I've listed the types of emergencies that will communicate with the community. So tsunami, earthquake, wildfire, a boil water advisory, a chemical spill, a dam breach, or major flooding. So this is not for a small emergency, it's not for a house fire, it's for a major emergency, and we want to keep it that way because we want to only wake people up in the middle of the night when there's a major emergency. We don't want to give people fatigue by messaging them too frequently. So the notifications will come in on text, phone call, or email. So when people sign up, they can register for their preference, or they can receive all of the notifications all the ways. And you can register yourself. So I could register my house, I could register where I work, and I'll only receive notifications for events that impact those locations I've selected. So if somebody lives in the inundation zone for the tsunami, they'll get a notification for that. But here at the regional district, I wouldn't get a notification because we're outside of that area. So we're currently building templates to populate this program. We're working with a contractor. There'll be 6 of us trained to send out the notifications, so we're receiving training this month. We're also having discussions with First Nations because the program will be rolled out for ALBERNI Valley as well as Banfield. So we have 4 First Nations specifically in these areas. So having conversations with the First Nations to make sure that they want their residents to sign up, and then receive notifications from our Emergency Operations Center. So those discussions will carry on for the next month or so, and we hope to roll out this program in November. We have a $8,000 grant to hire somebody to help market this program, so that'll be helpful in getting people to sign up. As well, when we start the program, we'll also help or rely on you to share this information on your social media and with your community. Penny, you have a question?
I do. I did hear about this at the liaison emergency meeting, and someone had already downloaded the app. I've already downloaded the app. Will it work once we're online, or do I have to redo it?
You will receive a notification when it is active because you're already in the system. So, okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay. And so we have been contacted by 2 different sections of the Canadian Armed Forces. The first one being the DART team. So the DART team normally trains internationally, but because of COVID, they need to train within Canada this coming year. So they're looking at Port Alberni as one of the locations where they could conduct some of their training. They'll be based out of Comox, but they're looking at Nanaimo, Port Alberni, Campbell River as options for delivering some of their training. So we met with their team last week. They had 8 members of their team come to Port Alberni and look at the assets and meet with us. We should know by Christmas if they wish to use Port Alberni as part of their exercise. If they do choose Port Alberni, they will send approximately 10 members to Port Alberni in late March, early April to run their exercise. We could run a side-by-side exercise with them, but they don't need that from us, but there is an opportunity for that if we so choose. And then the other arm of the military is the Joint Task Force out of Victoria. So they have contacted us and they would really like to run an exercise here in Port Alberni. We are their first choice for community. And this training exercise would be done in conjunction with our emergency staff, our fire departments, and it would very much be a joint exercise. And it would be focused on professional development, networking, and learning about the threats to our community. And it could involve up to 12 members of the military coming here. And I see this one is very important. If we do have an emergency where we need military support, it would be good for the people who are coming to be familiar with our community. So neither of these are confirmed at this point, but the Victoria folks are looking at coming late January, early February. So if these do go ahead, we will notify board and council, as well as the military. Will also notify the community, just to not alarm people that the military is rolling in. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I do, Heather.
Okay.
Thanks. Did they say what assets in the valley that they're looking at to use for these exercises?
Yeah, they're very interested in the airport, the Alberni Valley Regional Airport, and the port. They also want to do tours of every asset, but those were the 2 major infrastructure assets that they wanted to look at. Okay, so emergency supplies. So the EOC has acquired a healthy supply of masks, gloves, sanitizer, and cleaning supplies. And then tomorrow, several of us from the regional district, as well as volunteers from the Beaver Creek Fire Department, BC Ambulance, and the Port Alberni Fire Department are doing an inventory of our emergency supplies. So we have a garage in the community full of cots and blankets and some medical supplies. It hasn't been inventoried since 2013. So tomorrow we're going to do that inventory. There's some materials at the recycle depot. There's also some cots at the Salvation Army. So we're trying to come up with an inventory of what we have and basically what we need going forward. And then we have several grant opportunities and grants that we actually have right now that I just wanted to highlight, remind you of. So the Fire Smart grant we received from UBCM. This grant was done in partnership between the regional district, the city, Tashot, and Hupachesset. We received $157,000 to implement Fire Smart programs in the Alberni Valley. We received that grant in March. So needless to say, it's been difficult to implement the whole grant during COVID. We did do some parts of the program. So we did offer free drop-off of yard waste in the spring. We had 5 days. And we're currently doing a curbside pickup for yard waste for those that don't have the ability to take their material to the landfill. So those are 2 opportunities that we've done. But I will be asking UBCM for a grant extension because there's no way that we'll be able to spend all of the money in the grant and implement all of the programs by the end of January. So that will continue on for next year.
Can we ask questions now?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I had it pointed out to me by a resident at Sprout Lake that it costs him $5 or whatever to take his yard waste to the landfill. Yet if he called someone, they would pick it up for free. So I'm wondering if maybe we could extend that that grant to allow for free drop-off of yard waste for a time period while we're also offering free pickup. It just seemed sort of an oddity.
Yeah, that's true. We only have, I think, $22,000 allocated towards the curbside pickup. So we knew that that wasn't enough to do the whole community. So we really focused it on those that have mobility issues and couldn't get to the landfill, like don't have a pickup truck. So that's why we selected that demographic. We also aren't doing a free drop off at the landfill because that's been done in the past and it's created considerable congestion on the roads leading into the landfill. But we may do more free drop off in the spring with the grant next year. And this is another grant that we received from UBCM. It's the EOC training grant. So this has allowed staff to take incident command system courses, EOC essentials, a few other courses. And it also allows for the purchase of some equipment for the Bamfield emergency program, as well as the Alberni Valley emergency program. We had received funds to purchase 2 iPads to sign people up for Voyant Alert for some time in the future. I'm currently coming up with a training plan identifying needs for regional district and city staff. Some staff haven't had any EOC training or ESS training, so we're trying to prioritize what training we need to get people familiar with working in the EOC. Some people have obviously worked in the EOC for COVID and have gotten great experience, but not all of our staff have.
Question? So how much was that grant for? And
That
is
was
that just for staff?
That was, yeah, it was around $22,000. And that grant is generally offered yearly. I believe the next intake is early in the new year. So we'll continue to pursue that grant continuously as long as the funding is there. Were you asking, Penny, for elected official training? Because that is something that I want to organize as well.
Yes, it's been offered in the past, and I just wondered if this was just for staff or.
Yeah, this one is, but we can pursue that for the next grant. And then the next grant that's coming up is the evacuation route planning. So I did make a presentation to City Council and to the board earlier this year to pursue this grant. It was originally due in April, but they delayed it, the intake due to COVID. So we've partnered with Tashot, the city and the regional district, and we hope that Hupachesset will also join us in this project. Should we get the funding, it would allow us to hire a contractor to create an evacuation route plan for the whole ALBERNI Valley. And it would allow us to update our evacuation route brochures, our mapping, and it would help provide information to update our emergency plans. And then there is a new grant that just opened up last week. Not a new grant, but a new opening for next year through UBCM for emergency support services. So we will be pursuing a grant opportunity in January. So I will be bringing a recommendation to the board at a future meeting. We can only submit one grant application for all of our areas. However, the city could also apply for a grant on their own. This past year, the city was successful in receiving a $25,000 grant through this program for to build a ESS trailer. So city staff are working on that, which would be a mobile trailer that could be moved from location to location, such as setting up a reception center, which will be a great asset for the ALBERNI Valley. And that is about it for my presentation, so I would be happy to answer questions.
Tanya and Penny. Tanya
Thank you.
first.
Oh. Am I okay to go, John?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, I just have a question on the liaison group that gets together. Is there anybody that sits on there that has any ties to the agriculture work in the Valley, just to kind of get that perspective? I had a glimpse through this slide, but I didn't see anybody on there, and that might be a good good addition to that list if I missed it.
Yeah, I'm just going to look at the list, but off the top of my head, there wasn't anybody that I can think of. That's good. That's a good add, though.
Like whether it be the Farmers Institute or the ACRD Ag Support, because there's there'd be a lot of insight there that I think would be really beneficial.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, Penny and Diane, are you on there too? Yeah, so Penny first.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple comments here. So for the liaison group, there was talk about having a connection there. There is someone in the farm world that was creating a plan, and the Ag Development Committee was looking at that also, helping out with that. But it hadn't been formalized, I guess.
Was that sorry, Penny, was that an evacuation plan?
They were talking about that, how to get animals out, and
yeah.
Yes.
I have seen some information on that, but it's definitely not finalized.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was Mel Francoeur that was
Yes.
I will connect with her on that in the future.
And just another question. Thought there was a trailer already built that was used for essential services. It was kept at the city or at the ambulance station for quite a while. John Douglas was initiated that, I believe. Do we not have that trailer anymore?
I don't know anything about that. Tim, are you still on the call?
Hi. Yeah, thanks, Heather. And yeah, to Penny's comment, there was a emergency response trailer developed several years ago, and the fundraising effort was led by John Douglas. The trailer is still in the community, as far as I'm aware. It's more of a, it's designed or envisioned more as a trailer that goes to an emergency event and is set up as a command post or a first aid site or some kind of support to the incident. And the trailer that we recently got funding for is for ESS. So it's about being stored with ESS materials where we could take it to a site and stand up a reception center or similar center. So it's similar but different, I guess, Penny.
Can I ask one more question about that then? So will that be able to be used in the regional district as well as the city? Is it so they can work in tandem with this other trailer?
Yes, it would be available to any incident in the city. And in fact, I don't know why it would not be available to an incident anywhere in the regional district. Or, sorry, when I said city, anywhere in the valley and beyond. If we didn't have an emergency in the valley and somebody else had one, I don't see why they couldn't request that and access it either through EMBC or otherwise.
And just to note, District W. Hewlett received funding this past year to create an ESS trailer as well. So they have one coming this month. Tofino has one. And then Parksville Qualicum has one. They also have a pet trailer. So they have a trailer set up with animal crates that we can also request should we need that support.
Okay, we got Diane next, I think. And then Ron.
Yes, I just wanted to know, do you have access to people who have experience about supplies like food, water, light, and whatnot, and how much you would need?
So we've been in discussions with Salvation Army because they can provide emergency food services. And then we've just updated all of our contact information, providing food services in the community. So we would contact those companies or services as needed, but we don't have like a cache of food in the community, like at the EOC.
Right. I was thinking like other things even other than that, like water for sure, and how you contain it, and any lighting that might have to be used there, and other details that perhaps we take for granted, and which is very essential in an emergency situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good point.
We got Ron next.
Thanks, John. Two questions. Heather, back to that list, the liaison group, was Catalyst on that list? Do you know?
Yeah, they were. They participated in the last meeting. Yeah, Larry
Okay.
Cross, Dave Coline, and Jason Lennox.
Great. And my second question is, when you talked about the bringing clippings out to the dump, and there would be big lineups, could you not break that up into, Monday is Beaver Creek, Tuesday is Cherry Creek, Wednesday is Southport, or break it up into regions?
We probably could.
It seems like that might not be a bad idea because, people do tend to keep that stuff for a long time. And if there was a free day, it probably would
Yeah.
speed along.
So the free drop-off that we did in the spring was, we had 4 locations around town, so it's spread across the community. So that seemed to work quite well. Yeah, so I mean, we can look at all different options.
Okay, thank you.
Just to say, Beaver Creek wants Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, can we have the agenda back up, Heather?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we've done that. And so we have need a motion to move in camera for close the meeting to the public as per the community charter, section 90.1J, information that is prohibited, or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act and 21.1C3. The head of a public body must refuse to disclose an application information, the disclosure of which could reasonably be expected to result in undue financial loss or gain to a person or organization. So I've moved that, and somebody can second it. I can't see everybody, so you have to say
Second, Penny.
okay. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Yell. When the agenda's on the screen, I only get 4 people, so and one of them's me. I don't know who's going to carry this, but whoever's doing that.
May I interrupt for 1 minute, please, Mr. Chair, just so I can stop the recording of this meeting before you go in camera and just do a couple technical things on my end.